Cool.
And so we actually just had a strategy meeting last night. And for that meeting, we were talking about just what we want to talk about in this podcast, and also
Mm,
inviting individuals in to actually speak on various topics, because
oh
we
yeah.
both have a higher ed background,
Yeah.
but we also have other things that we've done. Like, for example, I've been in legal for a good amount of time as well. So youth offender programs,
Mhm.
truancy, misdemeanor, all the lovely places. I've done that as well as the nonprofit piece. And so this is important to me, just to have these types of conversations. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, what I think needs to happen is we really have to look at what's happening in society presently, what our economy looks like, what it has looked like over the past 10 years, and what we are anticipating that it's going to look like 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, and adequately prepare our young people for going into that particular economy and going into life. So that way, yes, I was in high school. I took 6 math courses between taking algebra 1 and 2, geometry, probability and statistics, and all these wonderful things. And a lot of things I learned in those classes, and even my chem classes and different things, I use those skills in life. But the other piece is nobody sat down. We had home ec back in the day. So I'm an 80s baby. So we had
Mhm.
we had
Same
home
here.
ec,
Same here.
right? So they gave you the little bag of flour where you had to pretend it was the baby, you had your partner, so you learned different things there. But we also learned how to cook. We had sewing classes, we had typing classes where we use a typewriter, and all the things that we learned that is helpful now. They're not doing that anymore for a lot of our young people. So when they're transitioning out, I come across so many who are asking questions like, how do I write a check? Where do I endorse it? Where do I put my name? Hey, ma'am. And it's random people that they're asking these questions to, and not necessarily looking at the check to see that your routing number is there, your account
Mhm.
number is there. And so if I'm not a good person, an honest person, and a person that says, hey, let me look out for you and tell you that you shouldn't actually ask random people this, I can take your information and run with it, and you would have no clue what happened, right? And
Mhm.
so those are the skills, when I say life skills, that I feel that a lot of our young people need. They need to be taught the financial literacy piece so they know how to budget, how to plan for emergencies, how to think ahead, how to have money saved up for 6+ months, and to be able to be comfortable. How to invest and what to invest in is also important. But then also the pieces of developing, like I said, that emotional intelligence, understanding how to navigate different relationships, how to build and cultivate those relationships as well, because sometimes people get so caught up in themselves and how they feel and what they need and what they're thinking, that you don't necessarily think about other people and how your actions may impact someone else's actions or the things that they may be dealing with in their own lives. And so
Mhm.
it's not coming from a selfish place, but teaching them how to be selfless, how to encourage other people, how to understand their own feelings and emotions, and how to understand that when I feel this way, maybe I should remove myself from these types of situations or even these types of people, so that I'm not blowing my top
Yeah.
because something triggered me. And even understanding what triggers you, because
Mhm.
sometimes if you don't even understand that piece, you could blow your top and think, I don't even know why I
Mhm.
had this moment, what happened. And so that's one of the things that I love to talk to young people about when I'm mentoring them, because I focus on girls of color ages 13 through 18, because it's also the representation piece that's important as well. You don't see a lot of people who are Black doctors or lawyers or individuals who have reached a certain level in their lives where they can actually be a positive role model. And even if you're not a doctor, you still can be a positive role model. But being able to have people in their lives that's going to represent who they are, especially from a cultural standpoint, that really understands this is what I deal with based on the skin that I'm in.
Mhm.
And so being able to meet them where they are and talk to them about these things is important. But again, you have to tread lightly a lot of times when you are attached to the school system, whether it's K through
Mm.
12 or if it's college, because your job may be on the line if you say certain things. So
Sure.
having folks that can come in with student and parents' consent, of course, if it's K through 12, especially, being able to have those individuals that are dedicated to the success of your students is important and is needed, especially if we talk about reform, if we're talking about morphing the
Mhm.
educational system, but also incorporating the people that's going to help your students be their best and their brightest and be there for the long haul, not just you see this random person today and then you're like, where is this person? I built a bond, because students build connections quickly.
Yeah.
And so leaving them hanging or walking away and saying, okay, bye, and not necessarily creating an opportunity for you to stay connected to them and them to stay connected to you, that's not a good thing. And so I
Mhm.
think schools need to build in their budget. And I know it's easier said than done, especially when it comes to all the resources that you have to allocate to so many different things. But we have to, and the government has to make an effort to support in this area as well. But
Mhm.
building it in the budget to where you can bring in the life coaches, those professional mentors, and all the people that can come in to help you do the things that needs to be done for your students. So you take care of the classroom, but they're also taking a more holistic approach to your students, which is why in my business, you get the life coaching, you get the mentorship, but you also get the ed consulting. I have
Mhm.
4 degrees, right? So I get it when you're navigating the college environment, the academy, but also when you're having to navigate it with the intersection of being a woman, a person of color, and everything else about your identity that makes you who you are. Having to navigate it from that perspective sometimes is challenging, but having someone, again, from a representation standpoint, that looks like you, that has walked a similar path as you, come in and educate you on certain things and help you and answer questions and give you that level of accountability to do what you need to do as well is important. And I think it's necessary if we're going to continue to build up our future leaders. So
Mhm.
that's my 2 cents.
I love that. I love that. Your 2 cents about, where we fit in the education system and how we can offer some perspective and kind of fill in those gaps that the teachers, can't necessarily with the curriculums they already have, and that's understandable. And it's really interesting, Dr. Jordan. I was asked to go back to my high school to talk in tiny, tiny, tiny rural Iowa, one stoplight town, right? And the principal was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so great to have you back," and da 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 da, and we want you to talk, about like your career and all your awards and all this stuff. And it was really interesting because I was talking to basically like their Phi Beta Kappa students, and um, it was so funny because when he introduced me, like he must not have talked to the person that organized my talk at all, because
Oh,
the way that he introduced me, he was like, and Erica Hanna's here and she's going to talk about being laser focused in your path and never veering from that, and like being really regimented in what you do. And I was like, oh, 180, and it's like my whole talk was actually about, hey, as the students that are branded talented and gifted, I want to give you permission to explore a lot of things. It's
right.
like you are allowed to change your mind. You can be really good at one thing, but 10 years down the road, jump ship and like we're talking about, and become an entrepreneur and do what you need to do. And told the story about how I had wanted to be a video editor like my entire, for like 10 years. And I did that for a little while. And then my boss saw in me, he was like, "I think that you should be a director." And I was like, "Oh no, I'd be terrible." And I mean, I cried. I cried the first shoot that I directed because I was so scared, right?
Mhm.
And without that experience and him seeing that in me and making me change, I wouldn't have these awards that are behind me. And I wouldn't have had the opportunity to direct a shoot with Prince, and it's like, and like Prince is the one that helped me poo-poo my imposter syndrome, you know, like, I mean, because he's the one that was like, you know, you don't create video, you create art. Like, this is amazing, you know, and it's like, who am I then to be like, oh no, I'm not very good. If like
Right.
Prince is telling me that I'm good, like, I guess that's it. Like I like I can't
Right.
say that anymore, right? And so like my message to them, like I said, was like, try different things, do different things. Like, don't beat yourself up if you want to do something different, even if you're already good at something else, because that doesn't mean that it's not possible to be good at other things, you know? And
Right.
yeah, the principal was just like, oh, this is not what we're teaching here in like little rural Iowa, you know, like he was like very like annoyed. But I'm like, that's sometimes what they need to hear. It's like give them permission to not be. And it's like I had a student come up to me then afterwards, and she was like in tears, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much because like I have a 4.0 and I got blah 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 my ACT and like I feel all this pressure and it's like if I don't pick the exact path that I need right now." That I am a complete failure in my life, you know? And it's like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you saying that and sharing that story, thank you,
Yeah.
because you said a very key thing that I talk about. And for me, I focus on empowerment. And so it's looking at empowering women and girls of color to transform their lives so that they can actually live healthy, live bold, live in their purpose and walk it out, right? But it also focuses on overcoming obstacles and insecurities in the renewing of the mind. And so a lot of
Mhm.
times, one of the biggest insecurities that I see for this population and so many others is what you said, imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
is feeling like I'm not qualified, I'm inadequate, I'm not the best person for this particular thing, or maybe I should only limit myself or
Mhm.
put myself in a box because I don't have what it takes to do this thing, or
Yeah.
maybe this dream is too big. In reality, if it's big and it scares you, do it, right? Because that's
Yes.
going to stretch you, that's going to challenge you to grow and to be the person that you desire to be and to reach that desired level of success. But we all face imposter syndrome. We all deal with different types of insecurities. And a lot of times we deal with a myriad of insecurities
Mhm.
that sometimes impedes our ability to be successful and to walk in that purpose that we have for our lives and that our creator has for our lives. We deal with that a lot. And
Yeah.
so one of the most important things, even when I was thinking about my niche, was what is it that I've dealt with that I want to help other people overcome? And a lot of it surrounded the insecurities, is the
Yes.
adversity, is life's challenges where, again, the ebbs and flows, where today's a great day, tomorrow, not so great,
Mhm.
but understanding that everybody at some point in their lives feels like an imposter. There are
Yeah.
some people sitting in boardrooms right now who
Yeah.
feel like they don't deserve a seat at that particular table or any table at that level.
Mhm.
And if you continue to have that type of mindset and you don't learn or you're not taught how to renew your mindset on a daily basis, because it's not a one and done, but
Mhm.
renewing on a daily basis where you can sit and focus on what am I doing well? There are some areas of opportunity, but what am I doing well?
Yeah.
Where am I making progress? And celebrating those wins, no matter how big or small, but celebrating those wins as well, you're going to start to come out of your comfort zone. And when you have the right people in your life who are going to come alongside you and hold you accountable, if you said,
Mm.
I want to be a pediatrician. Like my niece told me, I
Yeah.
want to be a pediatrician. Seeing you graduate and just knowing that you're a doctor and you look like me,
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I never knew that that was a goal. And
Yeah.
so, similar to you, her coming to me and saying over dinner, and it's just her and I chatting. And she's like, yeah, I saw you walk. I saw you graduate. And that made me feel like I can do it too. And I
Mhm.
know that you probably had a lot of stuff that happened. I'm like, girl, I had to pick myself off the floor a lot. But I had
Yeah.
mentors and a great support system and coaches
Mhm.
who helped to pick me up when I couldn't pick myself up.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
being able to develop that network and that strong support system is also key. And if you are a person where you don't necessarily have access to the Ericas, to me, or
Mhm.
anybody else that can really come alongside you and support you. That's where a lot of times the school system has to step in,
Mhm.
where the colleges have to step in, where the other organizations in the community have to step in to grant that access and even sponsor young
Mhm.
people. So that
Mhm.
way, if my parent doesn't have the finances to pay for this person to be with me for an hour weekly, bi-weekly, or whatever that looks like for you, who can sponsor me? Who
Mhm.
can help me? Where can I get the funding from? Because at the end of the day, yes, we still have a livelihood as well, but there
Yeah.
are some times where I'll just do it
Mhm.
just to help, just to pay it forward. I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not taking anything away from me in the sense of I'm still going to be blessed
Mhm.
by being a blessing, even just hearing you come back and say, man, you made an impact on my life, or the young lady coming to you
Mhm.
in tears. It's like that lets you know for yourself, I'm on the right track. I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm walking in my calling, because that moment, although the principal may have felt like, oh, well, no, that's not what you were supposed to be doing. We don't
Yeah.
teach that here. There was something in you that knew before walking into that, this is what
Mm.
they need to hear. And
Absolutely.
so for me, even before I talk to anybody, record any YouTube video, or do anything in my community, my question is always, God, what do you need me to do?
Mm.
What do you need me
Mhm.
to say? What do you need me to write? What do your people need to hear? Because I don't know their hearts.
Yeah.
I don't know their challenges. I don't see them at night when they may be crying themselves to sleep,
Mhm.
but you see them
Yeah.
and you know what you've placed in me. So what do I say?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me a lot of like, this is so great. It just made national headlines, but St. Paul just elected the first ever in like a city this size, all female city council, and 70% of them are women of color, which is
Oh,
like
okay.
incredible. Like just incredible, right? And like one of them said in the article, they said, um, I always remember the saying, you cannot be what you do not see. And like, we just want to
Mm,
be that, like, being might be like, hey, you deserve a voice. Like,
right.
come to the meetings, talk at the city council meetings. Like, you deserve a voice, like, weigh
Yeah.
in, like, and so I love that you're doing that, for your family, your niece. Is that what you said? Like, yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
She's like, I want to be a pediatrician. I want to do this. And I said, well, you actually don't like school. So let's get that out the way first and have that conversation, because if you want to be a pediatrician, you're going to have to go to school. And it's not
Hmm.
just I finish high school or I get an associate's degree, we're done. Like there's a lot
A
that
lot of
goes
school.
into being a pediatrician. So you have
Hmm.
to figure out what your why is. And I actually just posted a video on my Instagram this morning about understanding your why. Because sometimes you have to really sit with that and revisit it, especially on those dark days. Why am I doing this?
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
made me start this journey? Because that's going to motivate you to keep going. And
Absolutely.
even those success stories or people just
Hmm.
telling you, I love a good text message. Hey,
Yeah.
I thank you so much for even just organizing this event, or thank you
Yeah.
for talking to my daughter, or anytime I get that, it's like, yes, that makes me feel good, because
Hmm.
at the end of the day is for me, how can I bless somebody else in need?